Hello everyone, today we're going to make this beautiful dress for a little girl and we're going to make one for a doll as well. I hope that you'll come and join me in a sew along where we can all work together and make this really amazing little dress. Welcome to my channel. Today we are all going to make a lovely dress for your little angel. So you're going to need some scissors. I've got some Isacord thread. I'm going to be using a white, but I just wanted to show you. I love this because it doesn't break very easily. So sometimes when you've got a problem with your machine where the thread's always breaking, if you get that problem, try and go for an Isacord because that works really well. You're going to need some sharp pins, you're going to need some spray starch, you're going to need some sort of fastening for the back of your dress, and I just chose some different coloured buttons which I think work really well with the fabric. Or you could use, and I would say go for silver, not black. You could use some pop fasteners. You could use, or you could use some Velcro. You could put a zip in if you wish, but I'm not going to do a zip at the moment because I think that's a little bit more difficult to start off with. And then I had a metre of fabric to do the 2-year-old size, but I think probably you will need a tiny bit more. I think maybe if you went for 1.25 metres for the 2-year-old, you would be all right. And then you're going to need your pattern, and there is going to be a link for the pattern, and it should be up here, okay? If it isn't up here, it will be down the bottom in the description or comments section, and I will highlight it in blue so that you can find that. And then when you get the pattern, go in, and there is another video which I shall put in a link up here, hopefully, and you can then cut your pattern out, and that video will show you exactly what to do on how to use the pattern. So the other thing that you're going to need is you're going to want a piece of iron-on interfacing. It doesn't have to be iron-on interfacing, but I just find that easier. You're going to want to cut it at 1 inch, and you're going to need to cut it the same size as the back of your pattern. Okay, and you need 2 pieces like that. So I shall just go away and cut mine, and I'll show you how I cut mine. So this is a rotary cutter, and I use this a lot. I quite like it. It's just easier to cut straight lines with, so you can just plop your straight line onto the piece of paper. Now if you fold your piece of interfacing in half, or if you're using fabric and you just press that down there, you will definitely get a straight line by putting the edge of your one of your edges of your lines, and I'm just going to line it up just there like that, and I'm going to cut it down, and then I will know that this end here of my fabric is straight. And then you can just come over on your board, if you've got a board, and just cut at a 1 inch piece like so. Or you can use the side of your ruler and just measure it up to 1 inch like that. Make sure that's lining up exact, like so, and cut that like that. Okay, so you've got your 2 1 inch strips. Keep those and put them to one side because we will be putting those on after we've sewn the bodice. So let's start off. Once you've got the pattern cut out, you should have, now it says shell fabric, and the shell fabric is the main fabric that you're going to be using, so the outside fabric that you're going to see all the time. So you need 1 bodice in the shell fabric and 2 back pieces in the shell fabric for the top. And then you're going to need 1 lining fabric, bodice and 2 lining fabrics for the back. Okay, and then you will need 2 pieces, long pieces like this, for your skirt on whatever size you're going to use. Once you have your 2 skirt pieces cut, just put those and your ribbon to one side. I'm going to use on this one this lovely satin ribbon which I've bought. I think that is going to look pretty as well on the dress. And then you will need a strip of fabric for your placket, and the sizes of that will be on your pattern. So we have our pieces. This is the shell fabric and these 2 are the shell. So we're going to put those on the top, but if you want to, before you do anything, what you can do is go around and serge all the way around all of your seams. You do not have to do this because the whole of your bodice is going to be inside, but a lot of people like to serge their seams or just take them to the sewing machine and do a zigzag all the way around the outside. So if you would like to do that, you can do that before we start, okay? If you don't want to do that, we will just carry on. We're going to place our shell fabric bodice facing up, and then we are going to take the shell fabric back of the bodice and we're going to place that facing down, and the shoulder seam should meet exactly. Okay, pin that on there and pin that one onto there like that. Okay, and do exactly the same with your back piece. Place that one on there like that, and that one on there like that, and obviously I haven't cut that one quite correctly because they all should be exactly the same size. And I think it is really important to cut them correctly. You get a much better fit on your dress if you can do that. So I'm just going to go in there and I'm just going to trim that little bit away. As you can see, I've obviously not quite caught that when I've done the pattern, when I've cut it out. And that will make you have a much better fit. You won't have a piece of fabric hanging over the edge, okay? And yes, this should be like this, because your back, you've got a little bit more on the shoulder when it goes up and when it comes over like that. And as you can see, those 2 pieces fit exactly. So the back of your dress for the child, this is where you need that extra bit of fabric there. So that's how that will sit, just like that, okay? So we're going to take them to the machine now. We're going to do a back stitch here, and then we're going to go straight across and finish it off with a back stitch on all 4 shoulder seams. So here we are at the sewing machine. I've got it threaded up with my white Isacord thread. I'm going to be using the just an ordinary straight stitch. I've got mine set on a 5. You'll use your whatever is your normal stitch and the stitch you like working with. And then I'm going to have my needle in the centre. There we go, and I've got my needle in the centre there. Hopefully you can see all that. So that's what I'm working with. Use the one which you use. Make sure you use the tension which you like as well. Find out what's the best one for you and use that, and work with what you like best. Okay, so we're going to start off. Now what I like to do is put my foot just on, so it's just onto the fabric, and I want it at that 3/8, and I've got the mark on here where it says, okay, this is quite an old machine, so all the time when I'm looking at it, I'm going to be looking at this line and making sure this end of my fabric is touching onto that end of that line there. Okay, so you're going to be watching that. I'm not going to be watching my needle, I'm just going to be watching this edge here. Okay, so I'm going to get my fabric on, and I want it to be just under the needle. That way it doesn't go down into the hole too much. Okay, so I'm going to come on and I'm going to do just a few stitches on. Okay, that's just my machine. And then I'm going to shake it so that my machine will do some back stitches. And I've got a This is my back stitch here, okay? And this will just lock the threads. And I'm only going to do 2 back stitches. You don't need to do loads because you'll end up with a lot of bulk. There you go. And then we're going to go right the way to the end of this, making sure those 2 pieces stay together. And keeping that, my eye looking at that 3/8 there. Okay. When you get to the end, we're going to do a couple more back stitches. And then forward again. Okay, and let's do that on the next piece. Now, if you want to save thread, you don't need to break your thread there. You can just come along and you can put this piece, making sure it's all laying beautifully together. We don't want a piece tucked underneath, okay? You can put that piece right there, give that one a little pull. That's it. Place that one down so it's just on again, just so that you've got just a piece of fabric just underneath, and then come 1, 2, and then do back 2, and then right to lay to the end. And then back 2. Okay, so that's those 2, and then we're going to do exactly the same with these 2. And you'll see that when you can see how lovely that lays when you've got it starched on there. Right, so just going to go straight again, 1, 2, and then back 1. Oh, sorry, hold it there. Back a couple, 1, 2, and then forward, right to the edge, and then back 2. 1, 2, okay, and then straight off. And then we're going to do the next one. Move all that out of the way, make sure there's nothing stuck underneath. And we're just going to go on, let's just give that a little pull. Put that one on so it's just on. Okay, and then we're going to go straight to the end. 1, 2, back, and then all the way to the end. And then back 2. Okay, and that's your first bit done. Okay, cut your threads. And then just remember to take off those long threads at the end as well, which you started off with. Okay, and then go and we'll get the next bit done. So once you've got that done, just iron across here and across here, and you can also iron across these 2 pieces here, one and the other one here. Okay, just like that. You can open your seams up if you prefer to have your seams opened. It's entirely up to you what you wish to do. Okay, like that. Right, so once you've done that, lay your shell fabric on the bottom so it's facing up, and then you want to take your lining fabric and you're going to lay that so that it's facing down, and you want to marry everything up. So you're going to marry all along here up here like so, just like that. There we go, and across here. So everything should match exactly. There we are. So once you've got everything laying beautifully, what we're going to do now is we're going to come in and we're going to pin. And we are going to pin all the way down here, all the way around the neck here, and all the way down to here. And then on the arms, we're going to come all the way around. We're going to pin all the way around that arm, and then we're going to pin all the way around this arm. Now you might prefer to put yours in going along, but I prefer to put mine in so that they sit on the side, like so. Got a bit of blood on my finger. So I'm going to come around and I'm going to pin everything in. I'm leaving all these things in so that you can stitch along with me, and we can work together and do all of this together. That's not quite sitting there. I'm just going to take these two out. I don't know what happened there. That just moved a little bit. That's better. I'm going to pin all the way around. There we go. And then coming around here, just get that line flat as we had it before. You can put 2 pins into here, one on this side and one on that side, and that'll keep those pieces on the top there just laying nicely together. Coming around here, dropped a pin on the floor, I think. It was just, sorry, that was just somebody at the door. Just carry on around, pinning all the way. Make sure that's laying nicely there. Okay, keep coming around. If you get new pins, you can get some nice sharp ones. As they get older, it becomes harder to get a decent pin in there to stick in there properly. So it's nice if you can, sort of like every so often, every like year or so, just buy a packet of new pins, nice sharp ones. So you've got all that there pinned into place. The next thing we are going to do is just pin into our arms. Okay, and we're going to come in around here. Let me just remove some of that thread. There we go. And then I'm going to just come in here and we're going to go all the way around here. You might be able to do your pinning a bit quicker than I am because my hands don't work very well. If you've starched your fabric, you can see it stays nice and stiff and it makes it go in really easily. I shall put 2 in here on this seam as well to make sure that seam stays nice and flat. You don't want that bumping up there. And come down here and keep going all the way down to the bottom. You're going to make sure that these 2 pieces stay open, okay? And then we'll just pin this one around. I prefer actually to do it if I can, get it to work on the mat. Gives you something to push into. You can get very small mats, but I've just actually invested in this one. I got this one off Amazon, it's really nice. I think it was about 16 UK pound. And it's quite nice, and it's got, which is really nice for me being in the UK, it's got metric on the other side, so you can have centimetres or you can have inches, which is quite nice. I've got the inches over on this side at the moment because I really like the pink. The other side is a lovely lilac colour, which is one of my favourite colours as well. Which is quite nice. So we will be doing things in a metric and in a, oops, come away there. Can you see it's just moved off the line there? Just going to make sure that stays together quite straight. The bits of fluff is I've just finished making a hoodie for my grandson. There we go. And that's the last pin. So I'm going to put the pins in. So you should have item now which looks like this, and this should both be the inside on that side, and when you turn it over it should be the inside on that side. And can you see when I put that seam in there, I didn't quite get that, so just check that you've actually got both seams are laying nicely. Haven't got that one at all, it's folded back over. So I'm just going to take that out and I'm going to open that one up because I prefer mine to be like that. Okay, opened out, okay, and then I'll pin those back over. like that, just the same. So here we are with our bodice. I'm just going to place it on, getting that exactly where I want it. It's got lots of pins in it. I'm going to go around at a reasonable speed, and I will let you know when we get to a bit which is tricky. First of all, we're just going to do this very straight piece. So 2 on, and then 2 back. Okay, and then we're going to go all the way around. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my needle so that when it lands in the down position. Okay, and the reason for doing this is when we get around to doing these curved bits, we might want to move it, and if the needle's down, the fabric is going to stay underneath that needle on the machine. It's not going to pull out anywhere. So let's start off with just a straight stitch. Here we're going to want to turn it, so we want to come up, and we want to, it's sort of about here on my machine, so I want to turn it, and can you see here, I just want to, it's not quite, I've gone too far over, so I'm going to turn it back. I'm just going to do 2 stitches backwards. Okay, and then I'm going to turn it again, and that is exactly where I want it to be. Okay, so now we're going to come along here. Hopefully you can see this all right. The sun's come out and it's really bright, and I've just tried to put the blind down, but it's not working, so let's try. So we're going to come along and just do it straight. Okay, and then we're going to start to go onto that curve now. So I want to come, and I want to just very gently, look, pull my fabric, just not even pull it, just sort of slightly move it, so that I'm moving it into the direction, so that that is staying on the edge there. And as you can see here, we're going to need to just lift a little bit and pull it under to get the first pin on that join. We're still under that area. Come in again. And I'm moving the fabric at this side of from this side of it, not from the back of it. So we're just coming around slowly here. Get your pin. You can do this much slower if you want to. If you find that your machine only does it really fast, what you can do is just do 1 stitch at a time on this bit, so that you know that you're getting yourself right. Okay. Let's keep going. Removing your pins as you go. I don't like going over my pins. Now you might find here, if you're on one of the smaller sizes, that those pins might go under where your needles are, so when you're in there, just pull them out just a tiny bit, so that your needle doesn't catch on a pin and break. Okay. And you see there, you want to make sure that you don't get any lumps or bumps underneath it as well. There you go, and then we're going to swing it around again, and it's just exactly where, no, I think I would like to come back a stitch. come back one stitch. There we go, that's better. Yeah, that's exactly on the edge now. And then we're going to come down here. And this is just straight. So straight the way down. Finish it with a little back stitch. Okay, and there you go. Right, now we are going to do both the arms. Right, okay. So we're going to just place the arm in under. Again, just get it so it's sat onto that fabric. Make sure you're in the right position here. And then we're just going to do that first pin out. And we're just going to do 1, 2 on, and then 1, 2 off. Okay. Now this is more curvy, so we're going to just take our time. So we're just gently moving it from here. Right. Keeping your eye here, look here, not at the needle, and watch as that fabric goes under. You want the very edge of that fabric touching there, where that 3/8 mark is. If you've got a metric one, I think it's about 1 centimetre. Okay. Keep going. Obviously, if you're a bit more able at sewing and you want to do it quicker, then you can do. I'm just showing this so that anyone who hasn't sewed before can do this. There we go. Turn it a tiny bit here. Keep going. Okay, and that's that side finished. Break your threads, and we're going to come back and do the other side now. You can fast forward this if you think that you don't need to watch me do the other side, because it is obviously exactly the same. Lift up your needle, come in, I'll just take that pin out, pop it down so it's just on the edge of that fabric. Okay, go on 2 stitches, and then go back 2 stitches. Okay, we're just going to take our time and go around just as we did before. Moving it very slightly. If you feel that you can't move it, or you feel that you're worried about it moving here, just lift your foot, move it a little bit, and then put it back down. Do a little bit more stitching, lift your foot and put it back down, okay? But you should be able to just very slowly turn it so that you're watching it going on the edge of your foot here all the time. Okay, keep going. I want to just pull that because I don't want a lump coming there at all. I don't want anything coming out. Pin. There we go. Keep coming around. finished with the back stitch. Okay, and there you go. Okay, so you've got all that done. Now we're going to go and put the interfacing on, and we're going to snip all the way around. So once you've got it sewn all the way around, we're going to come around and we're just going to take our scissors and we're going to make snips as close as we can get them to the stitching on any of the round parts of the top bodice. So what you're going to do is here, all the way around the neck and all the way around the arm. So we're going to go all the way around here. We want to put them like, say, 1/2 centimetre, 1/4 of an inch apart, that sort of thing. Now if you cut over your stitches, don't worry too much, because what you can do is just take it back to the sewing machine and just run the sewing machine back across the small area where you have gone through the stitches, and that will stop you from getting a hole. Do a little back stitch, run the machine over and do another little back stitch to finish. Just 2 stitches is enough to do on your back stitches. Okay, so I'm just going all the way around. Here we go. That's that side. All the way around the neck. Okay. You'll probably be quicker than me. My hand's not too good. So I've got these really good scissors. I've had them a really long time, maybe 40 years. Obviously they're still really good. If you find that your scissors are starting to get blunt, what you can do is cut up pieces of tin foil, and that does help to sharpen them up. The other thing you can do is take it to somewhere which does knife sharpening. Or use this type of steel which you use for sharpening knives and that, and they sometimes can sharpen your scissors, but really the best thing to do is just to buy a really good pair of scissors. As I say, I've had these for about 30 years and I think I paid something like £10 for them, so you can understand that was a lot of money 30 years ago. But they're definitely well worth the money. As you can see, they've just gone on and on and on, so it is worth spending that little bit extra on your equipment, on some of your pieces of equipment, because you will, it will last probably a lifetime, as long as you don't cut paper or anything else with, or card or anything like that. They should go on and cut beautifully for the rest of their life. So just coming around to this last bit, make sure you go in and cut that bit there. So you're going through 4 layers there, so just make sure you cut that as well, so that you get a nice open bit there. I didn't cut down on the stitches, I just cut down on the other bit. So come all the way around like this. So on the dress I didn't show you this bit, I've got to film it, but all you need to do is to take your big bodice, which will be for your child, and take your piece, your 1-inch piece of interfacing, and you're just going to put it here, just this side of the stitching, so that you've got your stitching line on both sides. Let's just show you a bit better so you can see your stitching line, and you're going to put that and you're going to run it right down the edge of that stitch line there. Okay, so it's sitting like that, and then put your iron across the top of it like that and iron it. Do not do it on your board, whatever you do, because you will melt your board and your board will warp. That's why I had to get this new one. And then trim off the piece at the bottom there, and this is the point you do that. So that is all finished, being done. Now this is the 2-year-old size, so this is the smallest which I've got myself, and I bought a pack of 2 of these, and they are forceps. Just going to slide them in through the arm. If you're doing a bigger size, you won't need anything to pull through. This you'll be able to just do it with your fingers, but the smaller size, this is a 2-year-old one. So I don't know if you can see, I've just gripped onto it, and I'm just going to click that in there and that will hold that nicely. And I'm going to pull the whole thing through the arm like that. And there we go. Okay, now when you get to this corner here on this side, what we're going to do is, instead of cutting this corner off, what we're going to do is we're going to fold it in and we're going to fold it down. So you've got a lovely square there, okay? And then we're going to take our fingers and we're going to keep that square in there, and we're going to slide our finger up inside there, and then we're going to pull the whole thing through like that, and you will get a lovely square corner on that piece there. Okay, do exactly the same on the other side. And then do the same again with your corner. Fold it across and fold it down, just like that, so it's sitting on that line of stitching. Okay, get it nice and square on the stitches. Where are the stitches? Can't even see the stitches. And push it down, and then that's it. Got it now on the line of stitches. Sorry, I couldn't find the stitches. They are there, they are there. Right, so hold on to that, come inside and slip your finger underneath so that you've got your finger is in that outside bit, and flip it around like that, and you'll get that lovely square there. Just wiggle it like that and you can see you've got a really nice shape. Okay, right, so this is what we are going to put in next. The bodice here. Okay, and when you put it in, you need to put it in so that you are coming in here, but you need to come up, because when we put our skirt in, we are going to put our skirt in at 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so your ribbon needs to come just above that. So I'm going to put my ribbon there, and I like to put a little bit more of the ribbon over and then pin it in place. And we're just pinning it to the shell fabric, not the lining fabric, okay? Like so, like that, and then pin the other side. Doesn't matter if it's got a twist or anything in it, because we aren't going to use that. There we go. Alright, and I'm going to put that one there, and again I'm going to come up 3/8 of an inch. And I'm just going to put just above it, and you might just like to actually fold that in half and make sure you're putting them exactly the same place. Hopefully you can see that, so just fold it in half and make sure that they're going, yep, exactly the same. And then just pop your pin in, like so. Okay, and there we go. Right, so you've got those two pieces, and then keep all that ribbon in the middle out of the way. Because the next thing we are going to do is we're going to bring our back piece to the front. Okay, and we are going to pin all the way from here, right up across here and down the other side, so that it's all laying exactly together. Make sure you get those two seams there joined up nicely in the center. I'm going to come all the way down there and all the way down there with our pins. Okay, so what you're basically wanting to do is making sure that this seam, once you've opened it out here, it's laying right on top of the other, so it's nested really nicely one inside the other, like so. Put that one in there, and the same on this side. You don't want any bumpy bits. Okay, and then bring the come down and pin all the way down, so that's laying nicely together. There and here, all the way, and this way you won't see any of your rough edges, it will all be tucked inside. There we go, and come down here as well. Let's come from here, I think. There we go. And there. And here as well. Okay. And then you can put another one in the pin in there just to hold that ribbon in place nicely. Okay. And then we're going to go and do exactly the same on the other side. Make sure your ribbon doesn't get caught up. So you're going to open this piece out, which is your back piece, like that. You've got your front piece open already, making sure that that ribbon is nice and safe out of the way there. We're going to join these two seams here together, and we're going to nestle them together like that, and put a pin in there, and a pin in beside it to catch the other one, around the back. There we go. And then we're just going to come down here. I'm going to just remove that. I'm going to put a pin in there where that ribbon is. There. I'm going to remove that pin because I put it in the wrong way around. Okay, and then just put another pin in there, just to make sure that ribbon's nice and held tightly. Pin all down here as well. Hopefully you can see this okay, because the sun's come out, and I put the blind down and it's completely dark, and that didn't work either. So hopefully this is coming out okay. Shouldn't really moan about the sun, should we, being out, but really spoiling the image really. I've tried and tried to get this table in my room, or I've moved it all around the room in every direction, and everywhere I seem to go seems to the light seems to be wrong in the room. I think I might have to sort of invest in those big lights or something, maybe when the channel gets a bit bigger. There we go. So you should have one like that on that side and one like that on that side. Okay, so we're now going to take this to the machine, and we're going to do a back stitch here, run straight the way across, and a back stitch there. Okay, so now we're going to sew this bodice piece. So come on, do a couple of stitches back, and then I'm going to come along. I'm going to go all the way over that ribbon, and then I'm going to go back over it. Okay, and then go forward again, just to give it that a little bit of an extra, because the children like to play horses with their ribbons sometimes, and it tends to pull out, so I'm going to just give it that extra little bit of stability on it. You don't have to do that if you're, especially if your children are older. You know that they probably won't have any problem. Now, can you see I've got a bit of a bump here? I want to make sure that that is laying flat underneath. I don't want to find that when I get to it that I've sewn a piece of something else onto it. So make sure your fabric is flat as you go across. There we go, keep going. Still got a bit of a bump there. This is just where all the fabric inside is. You just don't want to find that you've stitched something to something which shouldn't be stitched together. That's better. Nice and flat now. Just do your back stitch. And there you go. Okay, and bring that out, and we're just going to trim that end and trim that end off. And then you can take this back in a minute and remove the excess piece of ribbon, okay? I always just like to have a little bit extra ribbon going through. I'm going to do the other side. So lift your needle again, place your fabric just underneath, make sure it's on the right place, okay. I'm going to go straight across, do a back stitch, so 1, 2 on, 1, 2 back, okay. Straight across the whole thing here. Lift that one out. Take the first pin out, stuck together there. Get that nice and flat. And the second one. Just make sure that ribbon is laying in there okay. And then come across. Just want to make sure that's laying straight when I come across the top of it. That's better. Okay. And then just go back again. Finished with the back stitch. Okay, and that's your bodice almost finished. Just got to put the fastenings on. Okay, so turn that the right way round. And there you should have a pretty little, that's sort of a little pretty bodice done. Okay, take that to the iron now. So once you have decided on the length of the ribbon you need, I like to cut mine on the diagonally, not diagonally, okay? And I'm just going to run it like that, okay, across there with the match. Okay, and do that on both sides, and don't catch yourself on fire, or you can do it with a little lighter. And you see that's not going to come unravelled at all, so that just holds that in nicely. Okay, I'll do exactly the same on the other side. There we go, so just be careful with the matches, just run it along, that's it. And make sure you dispose of the matches safely, okay? So I want to show you how I'm going to put in my placket. I'm not going to do it on the skirt for a minute because I did it on the skirt of the dress and the battery had gone and I didn't realise it had gone, so I'm going to try and show you here. So what we're going to do is we are going to take, this will be your two pieces of fabric, so that would be the front of your skirt, okay, and this would be the back of your skirt. What we are going to do, okay, and you want it in the centre of your piece of fabric, so fold your fabric in half, like so. Alright, and get yourself so you know where your line is, alright, and then we are going to take it to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch right down here and come into a point here and then go right up like that, just as a holding stitch. So we'll go to the machine and do that. So I've got the line running there and I've got a pin in it, and what I think I'm going to do, so I've just marked with a pencil. I should have used my chalk pencil, but I've put it down somewhere. It's probably on the ironing board. Everything's on the ironing board. So I'm just going to mark a line, and I want to come just barely to the side of that line, okay? And we're going to just stitch right up to the pin, and then we're going to turn around and we're going to stitch back. So I'm just going to do an ordinary straight stitch, do a little back stitch, and then go all the way down. To that pin there, and then we're going to just turn it straight the way around. But on this side, I want it to come just out a little tiny bit. That's it. Okay, and then come down. Just to hold that in place. Okay, can you see? Hopefully you can. Probably even better if I did it in a darker colour. But you can see that I've got a little space in between, and then I'm going to take my sharp scissors now and cut that right down that centre there. So I've got my little embroidery scissors, which I think will be easier for me for this. I'm just going to come right into that centre between those stitches. Just take your time. That will just hold that fabric, stop it from all pulling away. Okay, there we go. So the next thing we are going to do is go back to the table and start pinning the placket on. So this is my piece which I'm going to use for my placket here, and this is the piece which will be your skirt, and we'll pretend that's your skirt. Okay, so take your placket piece, and we are going to place the end of it on here. Now I always like to have extra on my placket. As you can see, it's much bigger. I always like to have at least ½ an inch on either end so that I can play around with it. And what we're going to do is we're going to come along and we're going to pin it straight up to there like that. Okay, and then bring it around, twist this back piece round, and then go all the way along like that. Okay, so we should come in and do that. Let's have a go. Right, so I've given myself plenty of space which I can cut off. I'm just going to come in just a little bit on that placket. One, and then come in a little bit more there, just to give you that little bit extra bit of movement. There we go. And another one, and I want to come straight in to that piece there. There we are there, so I'm going to put that one out of the way. And as you can see, I've come down a little bit in the fabric, just a little tiny bit. Put my pin in, like so. Okay, and then we're going to whiz it around like that, and then we're going to lay this back down again. Okay, so that's straight, and then this piece is coming up here like that. Okay, so pull that so you get that straight. I don't want any bumps, lumps or anything else in there. Okay, so can you see it's sort of straight there now? Right, and then lay this piece down and place it over like that. Okay, sort of pull that out of the way so that is flat there, and then pin that along. Hopefully you can see all of that. Did you see that? Let's do that again. So you've got that piece on and that's fine. Okay, then you're going to sort of flip this piece over like that, so that is out of the way. So you've got like a piece like that. Come around and place this on like this. All right, there you go. Put another pin in there. But what you don't want to do is catch any of the that fabric, this piece of fabric here. Okay, you just want to catch this piece which is right there, so you can still do that, and you've got, there's nothing holding that piece there in. All right, and then come up, and we're going to come up here and finish that off about just a tiniest bit from the edge there. Okay. One and another one. So I think what I'm going to have to invest in is one of those cords, so I don't have to keep changing the battery all the time. Okay, there we go. There we go. Right, so I'm going to take this to the machine now. So we are going to come in, and we are just going to come in at 1/4 of an inch and do this placket. Okay, so we're going to come along because you want to come nice and close to that edge. Do a back stitch and then go straight across. I'm trying to keep it like there on that edge so I can see where that needle is coming there. I've got it on the edge of my foot just here. Right, so as we're getting down here, what we're going to want to do is to pull this fabric this way, so it's out of the way this way, okay? We're going to go right up to that needle, that pin. There we go, take that pin out, and then we're going to lift our foot, take our fabric, and we're going to pull it right of the way, out of the way. We're going to lift our needle and move it just past that point. There, okay? Okay, so you're not on any of that fabric. There we go. Right, and then we're going to come along and carry on going along here. Okay. And then cut to the end. You can cut these end pieces off here. Pull that out the way, that thread. Cut this end piece off here. And then we are going to take it to the ironing board. And we're going to iron this down. So there you have it. So this is your placket now. What we're going to do here is just cut right into those stitches, so you're just touching it on the top of those stitches there. There you go. Okay, that should hold that nicely. Okay, and so then you're going to fold this back over out of the way underneath like that, and you're going to press that down like that, and you're going to do exactly the same on this side and press that down like that. And I'm going to take you to the ironing board now, and we are going to do that. So here we have it. It's a bit strange looking. What we're going to do is we're going to fold this back out of the way. I'm going to fold this side down first and get that folded in really nicely and neatly like that. Okay, and then we're going to come around to the other side. I'm going to fold that in really nicely and neatly as well, like so. There, okay. So you've got that like sort of sat on that very line. Just trying to fiddle it so I can get that definitely so that that stitching is right on that edge. Okay. So we've done that, so now you're going to turn it back over here like this. Alright, and we're going to fold this down once and twice, and we're going to iron, sorry. So you've got it folded down once and twice, and you're going to come along and you're going to iron right across here like that, there on that side, and then turn it around again, and you're going to iron it right in there like that. So tuck that ender, tuck that down, pull that down so it's straight there, that's it, and iron it like that. Okay, and then we're going to fold it up like that, and with a girl's dress we always go left over, right over left. Sorry, right over left. So that is your right over left. That's it, right over left. So this is your right side piece here, and that's going to go over your left side piece, which is there like that. Okay, so let's just lay that flat like that. And we'll just press that and we'll get that nice and pressed there. Just put that nice and flat and lay that over like that there. Okay, hopefully you've seen all of that. So we put it right over left, and we're just pressing it flat like that there. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take it and we're going to put a basting stitch across here, and we're going to put a basting stitch just across here like that, just to hold those two in place. Left, right over left, that's it, right over left like that. So you have a basting stitch here and you'll have a basting stitch there, just to hold those two in place. And then we're also going to come along here, and we're going to do a diagonal line, just a stitch like that along there. So we'll go to the machine and do that now. So for our basting stitch, we're just going to go to number 7, which is the same as the gathering stitch. One, and we're going to pop it under, and we're just going to come along. Don't need to put in a back stitch. Okay, and then just take that one out, and that will just hold that in place until we've got on to putting it into the skirt and gathering it. When you gather, you need to start gathering from along here. Don't gather this piece basically, alright, just gather from here, and when you put it into the skirt, this needs to go into your bodice piece here. Okay, so what you will need to do when you go to put your put it into your dress, you will place it here, right on the very edge of where your bodice is with the white piece, and then you will fold your bodice over it like that. You will stitch that, and then the gathering will start here, and it will go around for the rest of your skirt. So you'll pop it under there when it's finished and it's all stitched, and you will just stitch it in like that, and that is the edge of your skirt. Okay, and that will be the back, the join of the back, and that will lay beautifully. So I'm just going to put a few more tacking stitches in this side just to hold that in place. It's just my machine, it does that. Okay, and those will just pull out afterwards, but that will hold that in place for now. So you've got those, and then we're going to come around to here, and can you see we're going to come in and we're doing a diagonal from here. Okay, so I'm going to change my stitch back to my normal stitch, which for me is a 5. I'm going to pop it on there. I'm going to do, just put it at an angle, I'm going to do a back stitch. And I'm going to do another back stitch. There we go, and that should hold that beautifully in place. When you've got it opened up, you should have a lovely placket which sits just like that at the back of your dress. Okay, there we go. So there is your finished placket. Okay, and it's all been stitched and held in place with the tacking stitches. What you want to do now, when you go around your skirt, is to start gathering from this piece here. Don't put the gathering stitches onto your placket. You're just going to do your gathering stitches, and that'll go all the way around your skirt. Okay, and then when you put them into your bodice, you are going to put it in so that will be that side of it. That will sit, is that the right way around? This piece will sit under the edge of the, it would be the other way around, wouldn't it? So this piece here will go in, and it sits in like that there. Okay, so it's sat in that side, and that will obviously fold down around it, and you will do your gathering to the bodice, will come around, and it will go in like that, and then you will bring that over, and that will sit over it like that. So you're going to do it like that, and that piece there will sit out, and you'll see that piece. We won't, because this will be over the top. And then this piece, what you will do is you will put it so that the whole of that is under, and I think what I'm going to just go and do is go and put some tacking stitches along there just to show, and then that piece will come on that side, and you won't that there will go inside, okay? So you don't have it out like that, okay? It's going to go inside like that, and that will go under there like that, okay? So that piece, that will be the piece you stitch to there. That'll be your edge, and you'll go straight across. So I'm just going to put some tacking stitches there so that you can see. So that is the tacking stitches, so you can see that it's the whole of that goes under like that, okay? So that'll be the edge of your skirt there, and that will go underneath your white piece, okay? Okay, so now we're going to work on the skirt. So we have the piece of the skirt here underneath, and I've got it face down, and we have the back piece of the skirt, and I've got that face up because we're going to put a French seam into this. So all I'm going to do now is just pin this all the way down. So pin this all the way down. You don't have to do a French seam here. If you don't want to, you can just go and do a straight seam, and then zigzag or serge the edges of your seam, so that the raw edges are sort of like all kept inside. Alright, you probably don't need this many pins either, put a few less pins in it. You're probably putting way too many pins in here. And then we'll do exactly the same on the other side. There we are. And pin this side as well. Make sure both pieces are lined up together. I'm doing this with my left hand. Wait a minute, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll turn it round, that'll make it easier, won't it? Silly me. Right, okay, so just pin this along. Okay. Don't need that many pins in for a straight line. And this, we are just going to come in just on the very edge of that line there. So we'll take it to the machine now, and then we will run it through. So I'm just going to run that down, do a back stitch, and then all the way along to the edge. Just keep watching here, making sure that that's staying in that right place. It feels really weird sewing on the wrong side or on the right side. You're sort of like, oh, this is really odd. But it's okay. Do exactly the same on the other side. Remove your ends, long ends. Okay. Okay. There we go. Lucky that didn't break my needle. Keep running down. Finish with a back stitch. Okay. Make your threads, and then we'll go back to the table. So I'm going to cut this both ways. Just going to come in with my ruler, and I've put my ruler on 1/4 of an inch here, all the way up, and I'm just going to come along and cut that with the blade. Okay. Didn't do a good job of that, did I? Bit there. I think this probably is coming near the end of its life, this blade. When you get these things, they're not that expensive, but you can buy replacement blades and they work great. But so this one, what I will do is I'm going to measure 1/4 of an inch and use my pencil. So I'll come in, you can just use your ordinary ruler. There, okay, and then mark it up that side as well. That's it there. Yep, and then I'm going to get my, so then you would draw it, and then you can just put your ruler down and draw it down with your pencil. I'm going to just use my longer ruler, save me having to lean over under the camera. Draw your line down. This is a lovely pen, this one is. And this one comes with refills as well. Okay, and then it's just a chalk pen. And then you can just come along carefully, keeping it nice and flat on your board, and cut your 1/4 of an inch all the way along, like so. There you go. Okay, so you've got 1/4 of an inch cut on both sides. And then we are going to take it back to the sewing machine. And you might want to pop the iron over it now. You want to make sure that seam is sitting right on the very edge all the way down. Okay, so you want to get it right there so that you've got that edge coming out all the way. Just like that. And I'm going to just take that to the machine, the iron, and press that. And I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side and press it. So you might want to stop here whilst you do your pressing. All the way around on my fabric, I'm going to fold my fabric up onto the 1/2 inch. Okay, like that. I'm going to go all the way around, and I'm going to push that down to make sure that's sitting absolutely on the 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to go all the way around my fabric just like that. And then once I've done that, I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to fold then this piece in so that it's on the 1/4 of an inch line. Hopefully you can see that okay. So I've got it on to my sewing machine, and I'm going to put it on 3/8, just the same as we would on any of the other pieces apart from the hem. And I'm just going to stitch all the way up to the end here and keep that there on that 3/8 all the way. So I'm going to come on, and I'm going to do 2 stitches on, and then I'm going to go back, and then we're going to go all the way to the end. With a couple of stitches. There you go. That's that one. And then we'll just cut the threads on that one. Okay, get that laying on 3/4 of an inch. That there is just the piece where the hem is. There we go, got it all on the side and sat nicely. Just do 2 stitches on. And the back. Straight on, keeping that on that 3/8 all the way along. Just make sure it's laying nice and flat. And finish with the back stitch. Okay, so I'm going to come in with my hem and I'm going to make sure it's sat beautifully along like this, and I want it to come, and I want that stitch to stitch right at the very edge of the fabric right here. Okay, and we're going to go all the way around. I'm going to have, so this back one here will go face that way, but as we go round I will make sure the other parts of the seams are facing towards the back. Okay, right, so just start off, and as I say, we're going to catch it just here on the very edge. Okay, back a couple of stitches, and then off we go. You might want to fast forward for this if you don't want to watch the whole of it, or if you're doing a sew along with me, then carry on and just sew with me. If you don't want to do this, you can get something called a rolled hem foot, which is quite good. And you could use that if you didn't want to use this method. So this is my other side seam, and I've got a bit of a lump, and I want that one to face that way towards the back. Okay, so I just want to make sure that that lays flat there, which is my hem. Okay, so just wiggle it until you get it flat. Keep pulling this out and keeping it nice and straight. If you make a mistake, don't worry about it. Nobody ever looks at it and says, oh look, you've made a mistake. You know, I've never had that ever. They might think it in their head, but nobody has ever said to me, oh, you've made a mistake there, or you've made a mistake there. If you're making it to sell, definitely you need to make sure that you don't make mistakes. If you're just making it for your child or everything, you know, just keep going. Very forgiving because it's got this lovely puffy skirt. You don't actually see a lot of this stuff. Just coming up to the end now. I'm just going to finish it off with a back stitch. Remove those threads. I'm going to remove those threads with a pair of scissors because I want them to, I don't want any bits hanging down out of here. Okay, so that's your hem done. So here we are, and this is just a straight stitch here, but what we want to do is carry on with a straight stitch and put it to the biggest stitch we've got. So mine is number 7, yours might be different on your machine. So here we go, we're going to go across now, and we're just going to gather. Don't leave 2 long ends on the end, and don't put a back stitch in. We're going to do this one so that it is, I'm just going to run it so it's on that side of my foot there, Okay, so that's going to be our first row, and I'm going to run it all the way around, nice and quick. When you get to your French seam on the side, so it's here, look, we want to make sure that's laying in the same way as it's laying on the bottom, and just keep going over the top, okay? You don't want to get a break in this thread when you're going, so make sure you've got plenty of spool and plenty of thread on it. You need to be able to gather this all the way around. So I get into my second French seam, and this one's facing backwards, so I need to make sure this is facing backwards when I get to it. Keep going. There's a lot of fabric. Don't do a back stitch, but give yourself a nice long thread. There. Okay, and then I'm going to do exactly the same again on the foot, and then I'm going to come around and do the second row. Definitely knock the camera then. Okay, that's better. Don't have to worry about being too neat with these stitches, because obviously you're not going to see any of these stitches, but it's nice to keep them sort of very even if you can. And that's where I went out a bit, so I don't want to go over the top of that, because if you go over the top of it you won't be able to gather it. The reason why we put two lots of gathering stitches in is so that it gets a nice even gather. And if you are enjoying this video, please like and subscribe and hit that bell, and you'll see what's coming up next. I'm hoping to have enough fabric with this one to make a lovely hair bobble to match. So that'll be nice. That should come along this month, the next week probably. And then I'm going to make a few other bits to go with it. There we go, so that's your two lines of gathering, okay? There we go. So just before we start doing anything else, make sure after you've finished your gathering stitch you turn it back to your normal stitch. You don't want to be sewing in a gathering stitch for normal sewing. So here is your bodice, okay, and here is your skirt, and as you can see you've got far more fabric on your skirt than you have on your bodice, and what we want to do is to gather this in by taking two of the threads, okay, I usually like to use the back ones, okay, and start pulling them and pushing them along until this piece of fabric measures the same as that piece of fabric. And what you need to do is measure this so that this line here is the same from here to where your French seam is. Will be here on there, okay, and then do exactly the same on the other side, and also around this front piece here needs to be that big front piece there, which is all the way around to there, needs to be the same size as that front bodice piece, okay. So start gathering them up. Right, so here is your little top, your bodice piece, and this is your skirt, and this skirt has to be the same size as that bodice. So we're just going to come in, and we've got the 2 back threads, okay, and we're just going to come in holding onto those 2 back threads and start pulling our fabric very gently along. So we've got a nice gather. Okay, just keep going. Alright, so I've got quite a bit there. Let's come back this way. We can do the same on the other side. I'd quite like to do that. Grab 2 of the threads. Let's do that one. It's got them. No, I haven't. Got them. No, that's it. Keep pulling along until you get it all the way along. Okay, just keep going. That's it. So you've got a nice gather all the way. Then check for size. Do you need a bit extra? Oh no, that's about right. That's, in fact, I think that's probably just a bit too much. There we are. Okay, right. So here we have our top, and what we want to do now is we're going to take our skirt with a gathering on it, just like this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin it just to the shell side of my fabric, and I've worked it out so that I've measured it all up and got it so that the gathers fit exact, and I want those 2 seams, the seam where the French seam is on that side, and I'm going to pop a pin in there, okay, and then I'm going to go along to this side and get that other French seam, which is here. It's really hard to find, and I'm going to put my other pin in there, okay, and I'm going to those 2 seams sat one right on top of the other like that there, okay, and then I'm going to pop that pin in there just like that, and then I'm going to come along here making sure my gathers are even the whole way. I'm going to pin this all the way along, so I can see there's not so much gathers there and there's not so much gathers up this bit, so I'm just going to wiggle them around and then just pin that straight in down to there, and then pop these in along the edge so that you've got a nice gather there. That's not a good gather, is it? Move that along a bit, that's better. Gather those pieces all the way along and do exactly the same on the other side. Hopefully that worked alright because the battery went off. Right, so we've got our gathering here, got the edge of our skirt there. We're just going to put that edge exactly so it's sitting right on that line there, the seam, okay? And pin that on. And there we go. And then we're just going to wiggle our gathering around until we get it so that's straight going across there, and we've got our gather even all the way across, not so much on the end there. Okay, and then just pin that in place. In. Oops, I'm going to use the bits in. And last one, just in there. And now we're going to take it to the machine and we are going to stitch none of this white stuff. We don't want that white stuff going in at all. We're going to go around and we're going to go on the 3/8 just all the way along. Start with the back stitch here Okay, pull that white out of the way, start with the back stitch there, stitch all the way around and finish with the back stitch. Okay, so I've just got it on and I've got it just sitting just on that very, so when I put my needle down it'll be on that very edge of that fabric there before it touches the white, okay? And we're just going to go around, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that none of this fabric goes up like that. We want to keep it all lovely and flat, so you want to make sure that when you're sewing this piece you want to make sure that you've got this side up, your gathered side up, okay? So do a few stitches on. Let's just get that needle away. Do a few stitches back. Right, okay, and then we're going to come all the way around. And I'm just doing it just slightly over the 3/8 because I don't want to have to unpick all this gathering. That's just me being lazy. Okay, right. Keep going. It's just going to take a little bit longer because you will have to just keep moving the whole thing around to make sure it's laying lovely and flat. Keep checking that your bodice is laying nice and flat as well underneath. You don't want any bits of that sticking up or getting in the way. Excellent. Okay. Sewing on here so it doesn't look quite like that. Okay. Going through quite a few layers of fabric here. It's just a good idea just to take your time. My foot is, sorry about that, my foot keeps moving down on the floor down there. My pedal thing. That next bit out. Checking that that is laying nicely all the way. Oh, did it break my needle? No, that was lucky. Didn't quite get the pin out in time. Next one. Okay, this laying nice and flat. Making sure that's laying nice and flat underneath as well. If this camera should go off, I'm just going to finish off doing this row and I'm going to put a back stitch on the end. It should go off because it is running out of battery very quickly. I will just finish this piece off. But you should be able to, hopefully it will just be enough for you to see it to the end. Make sure that's flat. You see I am taking quite a bit of time making sure this is all laying nicely. Don't want any puckers up there or anything. Make sure that white is well out of the way. We're nearly at the end. And just finish off with a little back stitch. There you go. Okay. Okay, Okay, so I've turned my dress inside out, folded that over, and you want to make sure that your ribbons or your tie are coming out of the very top of your dress, because you don't want to stitch that down. What we are going to do now, is we're going to come around all the way, and we're just going to fold our white fabric just up like so, all the way, and then we are going to stitch all the way around onto that, just onto the back of the fabric where it's gathered, and we want to go just above where the stitches are. Okay, so we're going to go all the way around. I'm going to just stitch like that so that you don't see any of that seam underneath. And then you have a lovely dress which doesn't show any seams, so we shall start. Okay, so I'm going to place it there. I have got my thread. Just put a knot in your thread, and I just do it like this. I just wind it around my finger like that, and then slip the two ends through the end there. Hold on to that end, and then just pull it right down to the very end there. Okay, and you can trim that a little bit, but there's only a tiny bit, and you're not going to see it. We're going to come in here, and we are just going to put that there, so it's just touching on those stitches. Keep this nice and flat, we don't want a bump coming. And we're going to come right in here to this very edge, like so. There we go. Just going to fasten it off. That's it. Do a couple of stitches just to hold it in place there. Right. Put that in, push that down, and we're just going to stitch very carefully along here. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up a tiny piece of the thread, the fabric. So what we're going to do is take a tiny piece of the fabric on that side, and we're going to take a tiny piece of the skirt of the top fabric on that side and pull it along. Okay, I'm going to do the next piece. And we just go all the way around, just doing this all the way around. Okay. And once, if you don't have too long a thread, if you run out of thread, just re-thread, knot it off when you get to the end of your thread, and then just re-thread and start again on the next piece. There we go. So just a small piece in that side and a small piece in this side. You don't want to leave too big a gap in between. Okay. And we're just going to come all the way around, just catching it like that. And you'll have a really neat edge where you don't see any of that stitching. Okay. Oops. It's quite hard doing it in here for the camera. Let's see if I can get a better shot for you. So you're going to go in there just a tiny bit, and in there just a tiny bit. And then that won't come through to the front because you're just doing the most tiniest stitches in there and in there. It's going to take a while to get around there. The other thing you can do is to go in on the sewing machine and stitch in the ditch, which would be, let me do this last stitch, this stitch here, which would be, you would come in here and you would put your machine in there and you'd stitch right in that very seam, and you'd make sure that that piece of fabric came down just slightly over the top of this piece of fabric. But we're going to do this way because this is much neater than doing stitch in the ditch. Okay, so we're just going to carry on doing this. Now, I'm not sure whether you want to just do this with me and carry on doing it all the way around. Okay, what I think I will do is I think I will just carry on stitching this myself, and then, because you've seen how to do it, and I think it might be a bit boring for you, so if you want to stop the video here and then come around when we finish stitching it and catch up with me when we finish doing that, I think that's probably the best. I think it might be a bit boring for you just sat here, because that's how much we've done. We've still got to do all of that, so I'll stop the video here, and then you can pause the video and we can come back and we'll finish off the last bit of the stitching on the end and just show you how we do that. The other thing I will say is make sure when you get to here that you've got your seam lines lined up nicely together, okay? So make sure that you're sort of keeping it all together in that area, because you don't want to be dragging this further over, okay? You can pin this down if you'd rather, put some pins in it as you're going around, but I prefer to do it loose because then you can get a nice, you don't get too much of a pull on it. You can keep it nice and you can keep just going back and making sure you've got it exactly where you want it to be. Not too loose, not too tight, okay? So I should go away and do that, and then I will come back and finish it off. So I'm just finishing this off along that very last few pieces. Just going to go in there. I'm going to grab a little bit of fabric from that side, a little bit of fabric from this side, and just finish off those very last few stitches on there. Don't pull it too tight, you don't want to pull this. You need it nice and loose where that waist is, because that's the tightest bit which fits the child. And you find that there's a little lump there, and that's where all that fabric is, and we're just going to come in, grab a piece of that from the back and then into there. And I don't know if you can see where my stitch line is there. I'm just coming in on that, just above that stitch line. So that'll be on the back of your, I'm just going to put these last couple in so they're a little bit stronger. So that's going to be on the edge, so I'm going to do just a few, and I just didn't quite pull the whole of that thread through that time, or is that another piece of thread? No, I didn't pull it in, no. And then we're just going to do a nice little couple of stitches, and I'm going to come right in this time and pull those down. There we go, and then just finish that off by putting a couple of knots in it. As you know, I always like to do two. So twist your thread, pull your, put your over the top of your needle, and then pull your needle out. Just pull that so you've got a nice knot in there. One, and we'll do another one like that. Twist it in and around. Pull that through. Oh, and I've just broken a nail. Like that, and then we're going to push your needle right down in between those layers of fabric, like that. Push it right in and push it out the way so it's coming out here somewhere. Give it a pull and give it a good little tug, okay, like that. And then we're going to cut it here, and then you won't see any of that knot there. Okay, so we are going to now mark up where we're going to put our buttonholes, and the battery went, I didn't realise it had gone, and I carried on filming, so I put the buttonholes in, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. Start off with, we are going to put our first buttonhole 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 centimetre from the top, okay, so that's there, and again 1/2 centimetre. It's coming in just there, okay, and I'm going to mark where I want it to be, alright, and where I will want it to start, and I want it to come in again 1/4 of an inch from the edge there, so the edge, yeah, from the edge, and 1/4 centimetre from the edge, okay. So I'm going to just put my, I will come in, and I've got this little thing, you don't need one of these, you can just use a ruler. I will just mark mine up like that at where I want it to be, 1/4 of an inch, and then I can put that on the edge there, and I would just mark this with my pen. This is my chalk pen. Don't want to use that pencil on there because you won't be able to get it off, and the same there, and just mark that like that, okay. So that's your first buttonhole, and then on this pattern, however many buttonholes you want to put in, you can do. If you need to and you want to put them down onto your placket down here, you can do as well. It's entirely up to you the way you want to do it. I put 4 in this dress because this is for a 2-year-old child, so this has got 4 in it. What I'm going to do is from the edge of that buttonhole there, I'm going to put the next buttonhole in at 2 inches, and then again from the edge of that buttonhole there, I'm putting the next one in at 2 inches, and I would just do that all the way down. So obviously the bigger you've got it, just put the buttonholes in now as you go down at 2 inches. Mark them up here and here where you want them to be. Okay, so before we start, so this is a buttonhole maker. It's a foot which you can get ones which are compatible to your machines. You need to make sure that whatever one you choose is going to be compatible to the type of machine you've got. I think this is just a generic one which I picked up. It doesn't say, but it says it's compatible for Singer sewing machines. So make sure it says that it's compatible for your actual machine. It has a piece on it which goes up and down like this, and that's what makes the buttonhole. And on the back here it's got a little piece, and you pop your button in there, and that will show you the size of your button, the buttonhole it's going to make, and that's how big it's going to be. Place it onto your foot. That sits down on my foot, and that piece should go right down into it. So when you lift it, it should lift up and down. Okay, you want to place your thread out the way. You want to make sure you're at the very end of your foot. Okay, and then here on my machine, and yours might be different, I've got a lever, and on that lever it says BH for buttonhole. Okay, so here is the lever here, and it has to come down, and it has to sit in between this piece and this piece. Hopefully, can you see those two pieces? Let's see if I can sort of, it has to sit in between those two pieces there. Now my machine has 2 settings for buttonholes, a very large buttonhole and a small buttonhole. We're going to use the small buttonhole. Okay, and that goes on there. I will keep my everything the same, apart from I will make sure that my needle is in that center position. Okay, and then I'm going to come back down to the buttonhole which I want to make. All right, so bring it back over. Okay, and when you've got yourself ready, I've just got some black fabric because I think this will show it up more. What you want to do is make sure you want to get your fabric, and you want to do lots of practices, because I really struggled with getting the buttonholes right, and I still struggle with getting the buttonholes right. And let me show you this on the dress. Okay, I hope this is going to work now. So can you see in there, the needle is just before the start of my dress here. Okay, so what I would do now is all on, it's all right, it's all working okay. I would now make sure that when I start on each of the buttonhole placements, that's where it's going to be. Now you're going to have to work that out with when you get your foot and with yours, because mine, I don't know if you can see, it does several little stitches before it starts the buttonhole. So you need to work out how many stitches it does for where you want the buttonhole to be. So that's where I have it for mine, so that I know that each of my buttons is going to get lined up exactly the same, because they both all have that little row of stitches just before. Okay, so I shall take that out, and then we'll move on to the next piece. Right, if you find that you've made a mistake and you're on your button and you've just started, or you've made a mistake and you want to stop it, turn your machine off, turn it back on, and then go for your buttonhole stitch again, and then you know that you will get into that right place, okay, where you need to be, because I did it then, and then my thread, my tension wasn't on, so I'm going to put that down. So I'm just going to try again. There is your buttonhole. So here are the buttonholes, and as you can see, my particular, it's not my machine, it's the actual buttonhole maker, actually does leave about 1/4 of an inch from the edge, so that's how you can work out what you're going to have, how far in that buttonhole is going to be. So here are buttonholes all put in, and I'm just going to go now and I'm going to open up the buttonholes. The way I like to do it is to put a pin right in where the very end of the buttonhole is. So it's on where those stitches are, just like that, and hold that in there like that, and then I will get my quick unpick or seam ripper, I believe they're called, and I'm just going to pop it in, and I'm going to come along and I'm going to go right to the end, and having the pin there will stop you from being able to go over the end, and then you can move your pin to the other end and just make sure that you've come right to the end of your stitching there. There we go, okay, and that will break that up. And can you see there's some bits of thread in there? I'm just going to grab my tiny scissors, and I'm just going to, can you see those bits of thread? I'm just going to remove those tiny bits of thread with my little tiny teeny scissors. These are just an embroidery scissor, which I've got, and I'll try and put a link on to where I got those from as well. They're really lovely and sharp. I'm just going to take those little bits of thread out of the way, like that. There we go. Okay. There we are. Just come along and just take off any ends. Any ends showing, there you go, and then remove your 2 ends of your cotton from the backs of your fabric. There we go, make that, neaten that all up nicely. That should look really pretty. And there you have your buttonhole. Okay, so get that pin out, and your button, just check that it will definitely fit through. There you go, okay, it will be stiff to start off with, alright, okay, so just do that, make sure that's nice and neat. I can see there's another little end just there, I'm going to trim that off, that's better, there's a little end just there. Okay, so there's your buttonholes. I've got 3 more to do, so I'll just come in and do those now with you. So again, put your pin in the very end. Now some people prefer to come in with scissors and do it with scissors. I always find this way works for me, so that's the way I did it. But you can fold it in half like this and snip in there like that. Like that, and then put your scissors in, and I'm always a bit nervous with the scissors, so I'm going to cut over the end and snip to there, like that. There, and then come around the other end and snip to the other end as well. There you go, okay, and then cut off any ends you might have in there. There we go, that's not too bad. There we go, and then again check that the button will go through. I always think with this end you don't quite get it the same as that one, but it's, yeah, it's okay, it's okay. So let's do the next one. I'll do the next one with seam ripper. Okay, so seam ripper in. There we go, go in right near the middle, that's it. Come it around to where that pin is, turn it around, put your pin in the other end. And do the same again. There we go. And having that pin there, make sure that you definitely don't go over the edge. There we are. Okay, that's it. Yeah, just going to give it a tiny snip. I think that I had the pin too close. That's better. Here you go. Okay. We'll do the last one with the scissors again, just so that you can see it's just neaten up anything inside there. There we go, that's better. off all my threads. And around the back as well. There you are. Okay, and then the last one. But, oh, I didn't put that in for the last one, did I? Let's come in a little bit. I'll try and come in a bit closer so you can see a bit better. So I'm going in between there, look. Okay, and then put your scissors through and cut right to the very edge. You need a real sharp pair of scissors like this to do this. If not, I would say use a seam ripper. Seam rippers are really cheap. I'll try and put a link for those as well. Try and put a link to everything I got in the description down below, just so that you can see what I did use. Just neaten it up inside the buttonhole. There you go. It's always just worth taking that extra few seconds. Got that just a piece of thread off there. Just a piece of thread there. And then around the back. So, okay. So there you go. So you've got your 4 buttonholes. Just check that last one. The button will definitely go through. Yeah, no problems at all. So that's that. Right, we're going to put the buttons on next. And then what you will do is you will get a pin once you've done all your buttonholes. Get a pin and pin it into place like that at the top there, and then you want to pin it into place at the bottom where you want it to lap over. It's pretty easy to work out where it is because we've got that 1 inch piece of thing, so you can line that up where you want that to be, put it on your child and see where you think that the buttonholes need to be. Okay, put it in and pin it like that and hold those so that's nice and firm in place, and then come in with your pencil, go into the middle of that buttonhole and mark on the one down below where you want that button to be. Okay, and then that will mark exactly where your buttonhole is underneath. Come in, make sure it's made a nice little mark on there on each one, and then go to your sewing machine. So the other fit that you should be able to get, which should come together with your buttonhole foot, is the button foot. Okay, and what we're going to do is just plop this under, and again we're going to use this black so that you hopefully can get an idea of how this works. It's pretty simple. We are going to grab our button out of our buttonhole foot, and we're going to put our, so I'm going to place our piece of fabric underneath, and obviously you'll get it lined up and you'll mark it all up where you exactly want it to be, and we were going to place that underneath our buttonhole foot like so. Okay, and then we are going to come here and we are going to use the buttonhole one. Okay, just like that. Now if you don't have a buttonhole one, that's okay. Come here and just use your normal zigzag stitch, and I will show you how to do this with a normal zigzag stitch. What you need to do is just get it so that your needle is definitely going down that side, and then when it comes up and around, you need to wiggle it around by using this over to get it onto the foot. And what you do is, can you see this, as I move this up and down here, okay, that is going to move, sorry, that is going to move my needle here. Okay, so you just play with it until you find the right position for where your button is. Okay, move that across a bit. There you go. So I'm going into that buttonhole that side, and as I come across on the other side, I'm going to the other side. There we go, and that should go in and out and in and out on both of the sides of my button. So very carefully now, just go on and just very slowly press that foot. You want to hold on to that as well, so it doesn't go backwards and forwards too much. Okay. so as many times as you want to, and then you have your button stitched on. So go ahead now and we'll show you how to do the rest of that. So you will have some long threads coming out of the front of your button like this. Okay, I've just done it with a piece of thread for a moment. Thread your needle onto those long threads, and there should be 4 of them. Then poke it through and into the back, and then pull it out, and you should have 4 threads coming out the back of your buttonhole. And then what you're going to want to do is tie 2 knots. So 1 just like that, and another one. Oopsie, it's quite fiddly, but it doesn't take it only takes a minute. If you can get it right, I'm trying to hold the dress up and do it. You'll be able to do yours on the table. And there you go, there's your other 2 threads. And tie a knot, and that will make sure that that button doesn't unravel. Okay, and there you go, and you've got a nice knot, and then cut nice and close to that buttonhole. That button, sorry, on the back there. Okay, nice and tight, and that will hold that nice there and stop that button from coming off at all. Okay, so to finish off this piece, the buttons, we're just going to thread our long thread here through a big needle like so. I'm going to take it around the back, and we're just going to tie them off, and that is your little dress all finished off. There you go, all done. What I would do now is just go around and check there are no threads. So you will have some long threads. This is a bit from when we were gathering it. So go around, check all around, and check there are no little threads coming out. Okay, and just remove all those little threads, and then you will be finished. Check there's no threads anywhere else. Clip them all off if there are. Just a couple like that there. Okay, and just come in and check them all off, and you will be finished. So here's the back of the finished dress. It's looking really pretty. And here is the front. It's looking really sweet. I've just put in the little bow, the little flower, just to show that you can add something to it. And I think what we're going to do next week is make a hair accessory, and I think we're going to try and make a little bag, and we're also going to make something to go onto the dress, and a nice little decoration for the dress. So if you'd like to click that bell, it'll let you know as soon as I post those videos. And we're also coming up quite soon is going to be a dress for spring, and that will be in the February. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Goodbye.